Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria. Welcome to my channel. So I thought I should do maybe a check-in, maybe update video. I haven't done one of these in a long time either. I did an astrology video earlier talking about the zodiacs. Um, it's been really busy and it's interesting. Often the more I have to do, the more I tend to accomplish. So I'm making two extra videos today, even though it's a full Saturday of work, talking nonstop practically. So yeah, so we're 1/3 of the way into 2021. Some people have asked me if I am doing a depth year. And if you'd watched my last 2 years videos on depth year, um, I've probably said in most of them that I'm someone who always dives deep. And so I took on the depth year idea to help me do my deep dives. And that has encompassed studying things, researching things, my writing, my deck creations, um, as well as fine tuning my deck collection, which I've talked about in other videos. So everything, I'm just continuing on. I wrote a few points down here. Um, but I'm really focusing on being consistent and steady with the depth I am at in things I'm studying, things I'm creating, in my writing. And this year, 2021, I hopefully, I should have the consistent time and space to do that. So, if you don't know, I have a 3-year-old, and we just found a preschool after a year of no preschool at the end of 2020. But there have been 3 shutdowns, two this past month of April alone. There was spring break. So, it's been inconsistent. But in spite of that, I've kind of got myself pseudo scheduled to consistency so I can write consistently and create the decks I'm working on consistently, to study and research the esoteric and mystical things I love to study more consistently. I do want to add in my ancient language studies. I want to get back to studying Sanskrit. I haven't looked at any of that since before my daughter was born, so it's been 4 years or more. um, but I have been incorporating Latin and ancient Greek in some of my personal practices, my magical practices. And I will be including some of that, you don't have to know Latin or Greek, in my Patreon practitioners tier. So that is something else I've started up that I'm really excited about this year, to help me dive deeper into everything I do and to share it with people. Just looking at my notes here. Yeah, so let's talk about that. That's a big update. Is I just launched a Patreon community, and I call it that because it's not like, I want a connection. I want to connect with people. Some people may come in for a few months and leave. Some may stay for a long, long time, because I do see the practices building upon each other. So we're going into all sorts of esoteric, mystical, um, spiritual, magical studies, practices, and rituals. And I have 6 tiers right now. I'm sure I'll tweak them and maybe expand upon it at some point in the future. But that's something I kind of had thought about in the past, and I thought, oh, I don't know what I'll do. And then all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? I want a better teaching platform. So I have my courses over on Teachable. In the past, I've also done like live webinars, but just with where I'm at in my life, with my family, with my work, I wanted something where I could put things out there. I don't necessarily have to be scheduled on a live webinar time, although we do have some live meetups and study groups and book clubs in the Patreon. But it's flexible, and I need that flexibility to help my consistency, because there are still school shutdowns and that sort of throws a wrench in my schedule. But I I know that can happen, and so I have room to reorganize, which usually means filling up the weekends and evenings. But I know it's temporary too, if that makes any sense. I feel like this is going to be a rambly video. So I'm really excited about the Patreon. and where it's going to go and how it's going to grow. It's only been 2 weeks, and it's been a great start. I think most people who start something like that are like, is anyone going to join? So I was like, oh, maybe one or two will join, since I'm starting mid-month, and I've had 15 people join in the first 2 weeks. So that's awesome. And at Tears, that are keeping me busy and challenged and excited, because I love to teach. I love to share my knowledge. And as I learn more, I want to share that knowledge with others. And also because I've done this occasionally with long-term clients. Sometimes people ask me about creating like spells and rituals for them. And with my regular client work, which is a lot of astrology and tarot readings mostly, and a lot of spiritual counseling as well, um, I'm almost as busy as I can and want to be with that. And I didn't want to add something in like to my business website in that respect. And also, there's a lot that needs to be understood and learned before just giving someone a spell that could affect their lives significantly. So I wanted to teach, and through the teaching, provide people with spells and rituals or prayers. It's often a mix of all those things, to bring in, some magical and esoteric practices into their lives, but with education with it, not just, hey, here's a spell, just do this, right? It doesn't usually work. Can you buy a spell book? Let's say you buy a spell book and you open a page and you do the spell. I'm going to guess most of the time not much happens, because there's other things to learn and understand. So that's a big update, is the Patreon. And again, that won't take away from this channel. This channel's for, the free readings I put out there. I see that as my volunteer work, I guess, what I can give back to as many people who want to watch the videos, give people regular guidance, inspire people in my, hedge witch or magic and spirituality, magic and spirituality in my everyday life videos. And I have a lot of creative ideas for that too. So is this a depth year? Am I doing a depth year? Yes, because that's natural for me. And yeah, anytime I'm trying to dive deep into whether it's studying something or simplifying something in my life, often depth year is thought of as like cutting down spending. All those things I'm taking to a more consistent or another level, depending on what it is. Okay, what else did I write down here? Yeah, I wrote down getting comfy at some of the depths I've been trying to be at with all the chaos and ups and downs and school shutdowns. But the consistency is increasing. Yes. And it's interesting. Sometimes we don't know the depth we are working at with something, especially when there's a whole lot of other stuff going on in our lives, until that calms down and we realize, oh, I've been doing that. So what I often notice is like those unexpected school shutdowns. It's always like, oh, we're going to be shut down on a Sunday this week. Like, oh no. And I have to like reschedule everything or move everything around and get going on my day off. I noticed that I'm able to accomplish almost as much while I'm with my daughter 12 hours a day than when I have time alone to do my work and focus on things. It's just when I'm alone, it's more focused, right? It's not multitasking, listening to a toddler play and getting the kitten off the blinds and whatever. And so when I have my normal schedule, or what should be normal schedule, I realize, wow, I'm able to get quite a bit done. I'm able to be at the depths of reading. I tend to be able to read quite a bit with my daughter somehow. I'm able to write that blog post up or whatever it is. with her now. I don't know if I would be able to say that a year ago. Um, but yeah, so sometimes you get that perspective and it's like, oh, I'm working at the depth I want to be. Even though I thought I'm struggling to get things done, it's just that whole like multitasking creates this illusion that you're not accomplishing enough and then realizing you are. If that makes any sense. Okay. So, yeah, that's my check in. I am working on a few more decks. One is 3/4 done, maybe 2/3 to 3/4 done. It's an oracle deck. I always have a few ideas swirling around. I'm on the final draft of the final version of my book on schizophrenia. That has transformed tremendously over the past year. It's from when I had the first idea, and it was sort of like think about it and on and off for quite a few years. What my original idea was is not at all what it is now. Um, Most significantly, I realized how much of me the book is about my understanding, my psychic perspectives, but my own experiences that may parallel my sister. My sister has schizophrenia, so she's the subject of the book. And how those parallels give me this other or maybe, I don't know, a similar perspective on it. So, yeah, it's more personal. Where originally like I was trying to not put me in it at all and being sort of like objective about it, but I can't be. Because as I study, as I read more about mental illness and schizophrenia, as I'm reading what I'm reading, I think, well, I've had similar experiences, but I'm functional, I think. At least that's my perspective. Um, so, what is that fine line that separates someone with mystical and spiritual experiences versus, say, a schizophrenic who's seeing things or hearing things? And what's that fine line between picking up psychic information and hearing voices, for example? So yeah, I've learned so much about myself, or I guess you could say I've understood a lot about myself at a much deeper level. So it's part of depth here, right? It's deep. Um, sure, throw it in. In the process of the past year, because a year ago I was trying to finish up the book, and then like the pandemic hit, and everything shut down, and so it was actually sort of a blessing, even though there's that original frustration, like, oh, I have no time to write. That's the one thing that I can't do when I'm with my daughter all day is write like a book. Blog posts, I can do that because a few paragraphs, you're done, right? The book, it's like I have to sit with the whole entity of what it is. And that takes a lot of focus. So, decks, books, Patreon, I think that's most of it. Hoping for a lot more consistency. Hopefully, fingers crossed, no more school shutdowns, but it could happen, of course. Anything else I want to say? I think that's it. Oh, and one last thing. So I've already asked my patrons this, but I thought I'd open up here too. Um, are there any things, any questions you have for me for like a Q&A video? Because I get questions here and there, and I've stopped keeping track of them. But often people, are curious about things. It could be anything really. And I did this, I don't know, a few years ago. But if you have any questions you want to ask me for a Q&A video, throw it out there, put it in the comments below. And we'll see what questions I gather and if I have enough for an interesting video, I guess. Okay, that is my little check-in update. Yes, I'm in a depth year, but I'm not like depth year 2021. Um, it's just my it's like my normal state. So sure. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening to my ramble. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. If you want to check out my Patreon, the link is below. Oh, and also because I've launched the Patreon, I'm offering all my courses over at Teachable at half off through the month of May. So check that out. I don't know if I'll continue with Teachable after this year um, because I'm liking the Patreon platform as my teaching tool. So, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, thank you again, and I'll see you all back here soon.